It's amazing how big they are.
Good evening. I'd like to call the school board meeting for Monday, January 25th, 2016 to order. Roll call, please.
Vandy Creek here.
Halloran here.
James here.
Van Lannon here.
Linda here.
Williams here. We have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If there's no additions or corrections, need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Jay, second by Jenny to adopt the agenda. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Announce of executive session. In accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, an executive session will be held at the end of the meeting for the consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. G, citizens and or delegations. Is there anybody here this evening that'd like to speak to anything that's not on the agenda? Anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to G2, board service recognition. Tonight, we're going to honor our first open enrollment board representative. John Van Dyke has served in that role this year, or the past 3 years, 2 years? 2 or 3 years. And James is replacing him right now, but he's our first representative, and in honor of what he's service that he's done for the school district, I'd like to present John with the school bell from Ashwaubenon that we give to all of our retirees that teach or offer service to the district. John? Go ahead.
If there's one thing I hate worse than pictures, it's recognition. If my wife was here, she'd tell me that I'm terrible at receiving thanks and recognition. But I thank you very much. It was a great 2 years. I probably took more than I gave, but I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me, and I wish you luck in the role.
Thank you.
They'll treat you nicely. So, thank you.
Yes, thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, we'll move on to 3, Bright Lights presentation. I think we're going to go with the theater course. Bernie first.
Thank you. A little over a year ago, the board approved our first theater arts class, I believe, in the history of Ashwaubenon High School. And that class has just wrapped up almost. End of the first semester. I'll give you a little update about what happened, how it's gone, and then we have some performers here that would like to demonstrate for you. The first half of the class we spent learning about the theater, all aspects of the theater, from acting to directing, producing, managing theater, stage crew, lighting, building sets, and so on. Everything imaginable. And then the second half of the course we dedicated primarily to producing a show. And the name of the show is called Radium Girls. The students in the class picked the show based on some criteria we developed. They all auditioned for parts. They selected the cast. They chose who would have what roles on the crew. They pretty much did it all. So it is truly a student production, and everybody in the class has to both be in the production, they have to act, as well as do something behind the scenes. So when I said almost, we're not quite done, because we had originally scheduled the production of Radium Girls, the performance, for a week ago last Saturday, but you may recall the kicker for the Minnesota Vikings missed that 27-yard field goal, putting a whole set of things into motion, putting the Packers game on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. So we were not going to compete with that. So after a lot of shuffling, we rescheduled for this Saturday, the 30th, 7 o'clock, and that will be our performance. So tonight I have with me three people from the class. You guys want to stand up? I'll introduce you one at a time. John is a sophomore. He's an actor. He's been in both musicals his freshman and sophomore year. He's been in multiple plays. He was in middle school, plays in musical. But John found another interest in senior building and set construction. So I'll let him tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, I kind of, screwed things together. I had a lot of help from Mr. Finney's old sets, that we used for musical. We kind of used those. I did have to do a bunch of modifications to those, so a lot of screwy things. And we also rebuilt the set, and it was really cool. I would say I liked it. I learned a lot. Like, did you know that to take out a drill bit, you hold the head, you put it in reverse, and then it comes out on its own? I'm just, this is pretty fascinating stuff. But I learned quite a bit, and I'm actually looking forward to helping Mr. Finney with musical builds coming this next year. That'll be fun.
Okay. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Finney is the guy that designs and builds sets for the musical. He was not involved in this production at all. John and his crew did the set building for this. Rowan Voskel is a stage crew. She's also a sophomore. She spent the last 2 years on stage crew for the musical. And were you in stage crew in middle school too? No. But when we auditioned for Radium Girls, they had to do monologues, and we found that Rowan actually has a talent on the stage as well. So I'll let her talk about that.
Well, behind the scenes, I helped people pick their costumes, whatnot, which was pretty cool. It's fun to look through all the different costumes in the back and whatnot. And despite being on stage crew for the past 2 years, I think this class has given me confidence and this realization that I want to do more acting maybe, and I want to try out for the musical next year. And it's been really fun though. It's really a big team production, and everyone has to kind of come together, but overall it's a really good experience, I think.
There were a couple of stage crew people that really surprised us with some excellent acting skills. The third person we have with us, many of you probably recognize, and if you do recognize her, Brianna is not a theater kid. She's quite an athlete and has not been involved before, but she took the course, and for whatever reason, I will let her explain that.
Okay, well, I pretty much know nothing about acting whatsoever, or anything regarding anything. I know nothing. And coming into the class, I was not really expecting what coming up or being in a production at all. I thought it was mostly just acting skills, and because I kind of decided that I want to go into communicative arts, so newscasting, and I'm that might be a useful skill to have, being able to just pull something out of your head. But yeah, I've learned a lot from this class that I didn't think that I would have. And also, well, I was the publicity manager for the play too, so yeah, that was useful. And I don't know, I'm just really glad that I took this class. And now I don't know nothing, so that's a good thing too.
Brianna's a senior, of course. So they're going to act out a couple of brief scenes so you get an idea of what Radium Girls is about. Just a little bit about the play. It's based on a true story, and I was really proud of the fact that they chose an historical piece because it was pretty impressive. It's easy for a bunch of high school kids to say, yeah, let's do a comedy, we'll have a blast with it and whatnot, but they really took a lot of time and thought about it, and they voted in the end to go with a historical piece, and it's a really good play. It's about girls in their teens and 20s in the 1910 era, 1910-20s era, that were employed in watch painting factories. And what they would do is paint the dials, luminous dials, on watch and clock faces. But what made the dials luminous was the fact that the paint had radium in it. And so they began getting sick, and it's about their plight to try to get some help from the company for the medical bills and some of the lawsuits that they had to go through. And at that time, they weren't taking seriously. And so it's some pretty heavy stuff, but it's a very good story. So the first scene, John and Rowan are going to, actually, John, all three of you are going to be doing the part where John plays Mr. Reader. He's the president of the company. Brianna plays his wife. They're having a conversation because one of their friends has just died from radiation poisoning. And right after that, Rowan is playing John's business partner, and they have a discussion about what their next course of action is with regard to the lawsuits and so on. So you guys can take it from here.
Reader, reader,
Please don't let that be another reporter.
Arthur.
Dan, is that you? Sorry.
For God's sakes, Charlie.
I just got off the phone with someone from the Ledger.
This couldn't wait until morning?
I'm sorry. Good evening.
Mr. Lee?
It's Dr. Lamont.
Dan?
He's dead, Arthur.
What?
He died this morning.
This can't be. I just saw him last week.
Marlon's already done the autopsy. He says it was a severe anemia.
He's blaming the radium.
The reporter, or the Ledger's going to run it on page 1 tomorrow. I told them we would make a statement at 8 o'clock. That's when they needed.
When are the services?
Sorry?
The services.
I don't know.
We'll send flowers. Diane?
Of course. I'll call Louise.
Yes, that's right. Call Louise.
Oh, I should go see her. Oh, poor Louise. We should go see her right now.
I wouldn't do that.
Why ever not?
She's planning to sue.
Louise?
The reporter from the Ledger told me she's filing a wrongful death action. I've already worked up a statement for the paper. Company chemist for 8 years, always in poor health, recently in decline.
But Dan was never sickly. He was always on the golf course, or sailing, or in his garden. He kept a beautiful garden.
We'll discuss this in the morning, Charlie.
Of course. Sorry to bring you the bad news, Mrs. Reader. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Lee.
Charlie can be a bit excessive at times. I don't know what we'll say, but we have to say something. The shareholders will be expecting it.
It's all right. You needn't explain.
Sometimes it's necessary.
You needn't explain. We're going to throw this away now.
There's half a case under the sink.
And we'll get rid of that too. We'll have no more of this in the house.
I'll do it. Diane, I'm in too far to quit.
I never expected you to.
Side note, we have
Well, Radiator is like,
water.
it's supposed to be like energizing, but
Yeah.
it's actually not good.
It's radium-laced water. They thought it was a health benefit. This is, I think, the next day in the office. John, is this the next day?
Yeah, this is well, this is like, I don't know if it's specifically the next day, it doesn't really say, but this is later on in the plot. I'm just setting this up for like the last bit where I want to, oh, yeah, I'll just stand.
Arthur,
Charlie.
aren't you headed home?
Charlie, I've been thinking it over. I think we're taking the wrong approach to this. We've got to get a conversation going with Mark Berry. We've got to make a reasonable offer to those girls.
No, Arthur, we agreed. We need a definitive victory. Otherwise, we just invite more of the same nonsense.
Von Shaki is going to testify.
We can deal with him.
How?
Put more money in his pocket.
Now you want to bribe him?
Not a bribe, consideration.
Consideration.
For an expert witness. Whatever Barry's offering him, we'll just make a better payment.
You don't understand guilt, do you, Charlie?
Right now, I don't have the luxury of thinking about it.
Let me tell you something, Charlie. A guilty man has a tremendous need to unburden himself. His guilt can eat him alive. Don't you see? What Von Shaki wants is to be free. That is why he's testifying for the girls. That is why he will never testify for us, no matter how much consideration you offer.
Settle with these girls and you'll have to settle with all the rest. Neff was right about that. This is just the beginning.
Tell Markley to get a conversation with Barry going. We need to come up with a figure these girls can accept.
For God's sake, Arthur, what are you trying to do to me? You want to wipe me out?
We've got to get this off the table.
Every penny I've put by in the last 7 years I've sunk into this company. Why? Because you said it was a sure shot. No miss. Why work for Von Sashaki when we can work for ourselves? Remember that one? Take a chance, Charlie, take a chance!
Charlie, we were fooled! Von Sashaki fooled us all. The only thing to do now is try to clean it up as best we can.
Do this and it's the end, Arthur.
You're stepping down, Charlie?
Not me.
Well,
You know they're only one vote away from getting rid of you.
and whose vote is that, Charlie?
Arthur, have you so little faith in me?
I'm still a stockholder. You don't have enough votes to get me off the board. I'll still be on the board.
And still on the hook when this company goes under. Think about that next time your conscience starts to bother you.
We'll leave it at that. Give you some information. Thank you.
It's really warm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You do that because of the fields between the park and the high school?
Thanks, Bernie. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you very much. Good job. And good luck this weekend, too. Okay, we'll move on to our Apple program. Bridget is, Miss Maria.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to introduce Bridget Johnson, our Family Resource Center coordinator. Bridget is in her second year as our coordinator. She took over in the summer of June 2014 when the Family Resource Center moved over to Pioneer, and she's kept it going strong, and she's steady at the helm. And when she took over, she said, we've got to make a promotional video. So tonight, and she did it, incredible, she's here to show you the hour and a half promotional video she's got some
4.5 minutes, I promise.
great information to share, and you can look back at it at your leisure as well, but just some general information about what's occurring at our Family Resource Center and sharing some of the parents' point of view. So take it away, Bridget.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me tonight. I'm thrilled to be here and to represent the Family Resource Center and our school district. As Maria mentioned, I took over the coordinator position almost 2 years ago. I'm in my second year, but my story with Apple started before that. When our son was 3, he started the Apple program at Cormier, and that was 4 years ago, and I instantly developed a passion for the program. So what I would like to do tonight is show you and tell you, share with you what Apple is and what we are doing and how we're making a difference for families and for our community. I will also share with you, as Maria had stated, a clip from a video that we had made, or a couple minutes of clips from a video that we had made to kind of help you make a connection with some of the families that we are working with on a daily basis. So I'm just going to start with the basics of what Apple is. And first and foremost, Apple stands for Ashwaubenon Preschool and Parent Learning. We're a preschool program based at Cormier. Our classes are held at Pioneer. So we've got homes in both buildings, and that's a really nice thing to have. Our program was started over 22 years ago by a reading specialist in the district, and she researched resource centers in both Minnesota and Milwaukee and brought the best practices that she found at both of those centers to us here in Ashwaubenon. And since that time, the program has really grown tremendously. To date, our program has worked with over 1,000 families in not only Ashwaubenon, but the greater Green Bay area. We currently have 54 families enrolled that we work with on a weekly basis, and we have quite a hefty waiting list for families that would like to join our program. I'm getting emails or phone calls daily for families that are hearing about our program, and it's really kind of all over the board. I got a phone call a couple weeks ago that said, I heard about your program in my yoga class and I need more information. So word of mouth has really been a blessing to us at this point in time. We are impacting the families that we're working with, and they are spreading the word, and that is in turn bringing more families to us. In fact, we have so many families on our waiting list right now that we will be starting an additional day of programming within our Apple program as well. Currently, we have classes that are offered on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings, as well as Thursday evenings. Soon to be another class being offered on Monday mornings. And parents and children attend the classes once per week. So they're not there every single day. They choose the day that works best for them, and we get them on the schedule for that day. Our classes typically have 14 to 15 children in them. And we have a really nice, diverse group. It is definitely a family atmosphere. And when I say family, I don't just mean mom and dad and children. We have grandparents coming to class that are either raising their grandchildren or playing a very big role in their daily life. We have child care providers that are bringing in a child or two that they are working with on a daily basis as well. We really have a large group coming in, and we believe strongly that family isn't necessarily just mom and dad. It's the people that are playing the largest role in the child's life. So when we say family, when we say parent and child, that's a term that I use loosely because that can mean many things to different families. Our preschool program is unique in that there are 3 components to it. It is not a typical drop-off preschool where parents would come in, drop their children off, and come back for them in a few hours. We have our first component called PACT, and that always takes place during the first 30 minutes of class, and that is parent and child together time. So when our families are coming to school with their children, they come into our classroom, our preschool classroom, and we have preschool teachers that have themed activities coordinated for them to do. We come together in a circle, we sing our good morning song, and then the parents are dispersed throughout the room doing one of these activities that one of our 4 preschool teachers has planned for them. They can jump from different activities in the room, and then at that 30-minute mark, our other 2 components of the class come in. Our pack time ends, and our preschool class or our parent education class begins. What happens at that point in time is the preschool teachers stay in the classroom with our students, and they have an hour and a half to work with them. The program is very play-based. We are very literacy-filled. We believe very strongly in reading and all those literacy components that are so important for education. So our preschool teachers will do a group time. They'll do a large group story. They may do small group stories. We'll do fine motor and gross motor activities. There's always a sensory activity as well, music and movement. And then, of course, every day is the all-important snack time for the kids. They wait for that every day. So that's another component that is part of every single class. Through this, the kids are developing relationships early. We're able to look at the development of the children, where they're at, and where we need to help them move forward. There are no specific requirements to get into that preschool class other than being 22 months old. Once they're 22 months, we gladly take them wherever they are at, and we move them forward from that point in time. While all of this is happening in the preschool class, our parents are in the room next door, and they are taking part in a parent discussion group. And our parent discussion group is very similar, actually, to what you're seeing in here today. Our parents are gathered in a circle. You'll see some little bits of that on the video, but the parents are gathered in a circle, and they are relying on each other. They're having discussions with each other. They're given an opportunity in the beginning of class to discuss any struggles or any celebrations that are going on in their home. For example, if you have a child who you're really struggling to potty train or get to bed at night, they can come forward and say, Tim won't go to bed at night. I've tried everything. I don't know what to do. Does anybody here have any recommendations? And then it's an open floor for them. Parents can jump in and say, this has worked for us. This hasn't worked for us. Have you tried this? And it's a very great opportunity for parents to come in and have a sounding board on what they are working on at home or what they're struggling. Or we get the flip side where we've got a parent come in and say, after 3 long months, I can finally tell you we're potty trained. And the details that come out are, they don't hide anything at this point in time. Our families really become one big unit themselves. After that open floor time is over, we have parent educators that then lead discussions. And it's a lesson plan just like it would be in a classroom. They talk to parents and find out what the parents are wanting information on, what they are wanting to learn about, and then they develop a lesson plan. Some of our discussion lessons or topics have included potty training, discipline, sibling rivalry. We go into finances, health, sleep patterns for children, and really anything that is common to being an adult or a parent. And we also have guest speakers come in. Some of our guest speakers have included hospital staff. We have a physician's assistant that comes in and speaks to our families about how to keep their children healthy. Mary Jo Binding comes in every year and speaks to our families about that same topic and gives some additional information. Mandy Schrader has come in from our technology department and talked to our parents about technology in the preschooler. So really we have finance professionals come in too if parents are wondering about financing or wills. There's a lot of topics that you can cover as a parent. So they come in and they are given this whole discussion group. And the beauty of it is that their children are getting exactly what they need in preschool, and the parents are getting exactly what they need from a parent perspective. Just having that community and that fellowship with other parents. Sometimes we hear that it's just a blessing to know that you're not alone and that you're not going through these things. And in turn, we are able to strengthen our parents' skills to parent their children. We're able to strengthen our community because our families are then going out and helping other families. We have a lot of families that come in as well that get to know our schools, get to know our staff in our district, and really want to be part of our district. So our district is benefiting just to have this program as well. A lot of great things are happening within the program right now. And we take great pride in supporting our families and the community. We believe strongly in building quality early childhood resources within the community and creating a collaboration between families and school districts and the ability to do that at such an early age. I'd now like to show you a clip from a video that we had made. This was the video Maria was talking about. And we were, I can't even tell you how amazing it was to be able to do this. When I did take over this role, I did tell Maria, I think we need to have a video because we need to tell people what we're doing and we need to be able to show that to them. Telling them is one thing, being able to show that to them is something completely different. So I was talking to our families one day and explaining to them that I had this dream to do a video. And one of our Apple families said, my dad owns a video production company in Ashwaubenon, and I'm going to talk to him, but I think we would love to do this with you. And Thompson Hill Company from Ashwaubenon came in and spent literally a week with us within the program, videotaping classes, taking pictures, doing interviews of Dr. Haynes and Maria and myself and our families. And then they put together this absolutely stunning video showcasing what we are doing. The video is 11.5 minutes long or 12 minutes long. We're not going to watch it all. What I thought was important for you to see tonight was some parent discussion and some parent feedback on what they have gained from our program because they are really the heart and soul of this program and what makes it successful. So I will show that to you now.
Learning an app will carry over into other activities that she's in. She follows directions beautifully, and I think that directly correlates with her time at Apple. My daughter has gained a lot of social skills with playing with the other children. She's learned her colors, her letters.
I see many families, generations of families, continuing to stay connected to this program, and I think that's that says a lot for the program. Parents return and they have a lot of success stories. It's making a difference.
You start to see a lineage that is created within the program, and you have families that come back and leave again, and you have families that return and they bring new families with them.
We started in the program when our twins, who are now 5.5, they were not even 2 yet. They were living here on 22 months, and they were in the program for 2 years. And then our youngest child, who now just turned 2, started in the program when he was about 22 months as well. This is my 5th year with Apple. I've been going since 2009, and this is my last year at Apple.
It's important to raise self-reliant, resourceful, confident, loving children, and Apple gives the parents the tools to do this. It's a wonderful program to get the parents to feel like they're not in it by themselves.
I hear parents say what this program has meant to them, the difference it has made for their families, for their children, the positive experiences that they've had there. We have returning parents, they come back again and again. They tell their friends, they tell their neighbors. Our reputation in the area is what brings parents here. They want to know, they want to understand their children better.
The most impactful part of this program for myself has been just networking with the other moms, bouncing ideas off of them, getting ideas for potty training or temper tantrums, or just knowing that you're not the only one going through something at that particular time.
I feel more confident in my ability to parent. I have better solutions and I have better skills. And I also have a great sounding word at Apple. There's a lot of other moms that go through similar struggles and similar challenges, and it's really great to have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and learn from their experiences.
I am home a lot. I have 4 little kids, so I like coming just to get that adult aspect, and not only, my children get to be a part of the program in another room, and I also get to talk with other parents.
We live in a community that is so supportive of our program, and a school district that believes so strongly in the power of a family and in the power of educating early childhood children. Our Apple program doesn't just support Ashwaubenon families. We have families from Green Bay, from De Pere, from Howard Swamigo, and we want to give them all they need to work with their children when they're not with us, and to put all those tricks in their pockets, and to give them each other to lean on. And that is our focus, is the children, it's the families, it's creating that bond within the school district.
We want to be child-centered and look to the children for their next step and nudging and nurturing their next step in learning, which is very important for success.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions at all?
How many kids do you serve, or families, I should say?
Currently, we have 54 families. We have about 7 to 10 families on the waiting list for the next class. And we have several families at school as well, at Cormier, that I know would benefit from this. And I'm working on contacting and reaching out to those families too, who maybe don't know about our program but could benefit greatly from it. My goal by the end of the school year is to have between 55 and 70 families that we work with.
When do you recommend people sign up? I know you said they have to be 22 months old, or if you have a wait list.
We do have a wait list. Our classes run 3 sessions a year, each session being 10 weeks long. So we typically start the week after school starts. Our sign up will start already in April or May for the following session. So we do offer a summer school class as well that works at the same time that Ashwaubenon has summer school. So we have our families. I always tell our families, if you want to join our program, please fill out our registration form and send it to me. And I have a nice little compilation on my computer of families that are interested in the program. Unfortunately and fortunately this year, we've not had a ton of openings available. So I let families know that we are currently full, but if a family moves away, if a schedule changes, we have several families right now that are expecting babies. And the moms have said, we're going to need a little time off after we have this baby just because it's too much finagling of schedules. So then we can fit a family in as well. I recommend as soon as they know they want to be part of the program. That being said, one portion of this that I did leave out as well is that the benefit of this for families is that if they have younger children who aren't 22 months of age, or parents who want to be part of the program but their children aren't ready for the preschool class, those children are welcome to be in the parent education room with them as well. We have a really nice carpeted area with toys for the kids. So if you have younger children or your children aren't quite ready but you want to be in the program, that's still doable. Your children just stay with you then until they are ready to move into the preschool room. The sooner the better. That's what I'm telling everybody. The sooner the better, especially with the exponential growth that we've seen over the last couple of years.
So is the demand for daytime classes much greater than evening? Because there's certainly a whole segment of population that could not make a daytime class.
Initially there was, but we are seeing more and more requests for a nighttime class. So we just kind of restarted that nighttime class, I want to say 3 years ago. And initially the demand wasn't that great, but again, I think it was word of mouth that spread that we had a nighttime class which is available, which is not common even for traditional preschools to have an evening class available. And since then, we've really seen an effect of, I want nighttime, I'd like nighttime, do you have any other nights available? And I am seeing a large amount of growth in that. And that isn't something that we'd seen. I'd say that's a development probably within the last year and a half. And again, I think it's word of mouth, families going to work and telling people that they work with that there's an evening preschool class that they're able to take part in, because we don't just want this to be an opportunity for parents that are home during the day. We want all of our community families to have an opportunity, even if they're working during the daytime.
What size is your classes?
We like to keep them at no more than 15 children per class, simply to keep that small, close-knit, tight feeling for both the children and the family, and because we feel that 15 number is that magic number where we can really excel at meeting the needs of each of the students.
How many adults then?
2 preschool teachers, and typically we will have a volunteer as well in there. So 3 adults. Because I'm not teaching the preschool portion or the parent education portion, I'm also able to go over there and spend time in the classroom too. So if we are working on a big project or we have a lot going on, if it's a really active room, it's possible to have 3 or 4 adults in there at one time.
And where do you get your resources from?
We are funded partially by the Community Service Fund, and the remainder of our funding comes from tuition from the parents, fundraising, applying for grants, all those pieces kind of work together. We work within a tight budget and keep ourselves on track, so we are able to continue to benefit our families without depleting our resources greatly.
Well, it certainly is a great program, and it gave me time to think that my daughter went through the program probably close to 18 years ago.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so it's been around for a long time and keeps doing good things.
Great.
So keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have a registration form that you can look at. I'll pass one out just if you want to look at it, or if you know anybody that you think would be interested in the program, don't hesitate to pass that information on. I smile when I give it to James because his wife and children are in the program as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice job. Thanks for the info.
Alrighty. Is there any other questions, Taylor? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming this evening and telling us all about the program. Okay, we'll move on to H, consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the regular meeting held on Monday, December 14th, 2 minutes of the executive session meeting held on Monday, December 14th, schedule of checks written 12/8 to 1/18, professional staffing retirement request of Joan Gilbert from her full-time grade 5 instructor position at Valley View, retirement request of Allison Boggins from her full-time kindergarten instructor position at Cormier School. The retirement request of Carrie LaRue from her full-time grade 5 instructor position at Valley View. We got 4 support staff positions that are changing and 40 co-curricular is up for approval as well. Motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Brian, second by Ginny to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Superintendent's report.
All right, I want to start off by just giving you a little update on the Studer education survey. You know, those surveys were completed by a little over 300 staff members. It was the employee engagement survey. That data was then compiled, and then now we're in the process of rolling out all of the results from all of those surveys now in the next couple of weeks. Will be rolled out at each individual site, and prior to the February board meeting, we'd like to have a board workshop to present a summary of that. Obviously not every site. A summary of that will be presented, as well as we'll give you an update on our 2 building goals and that mid-year progress snapshot of where we are with those. As long as I'm talking about that February workshop, we'd also like to engage you in a discussion about a need that's really coming out of that survey having to do with professional development time. And it seems like every year I'm in this business, we talk about raising the bar and aligning standards and the many things that have to go along with instruction, quality assessment, creating those assessment instruments, getting departments and teachers really together to do that. So I plant that seed for you to think about and be ready for that conversation. We would like to look at some type of a late start, perhaps an early release, to somehow get that time available. And we've studied area districts, and it's a challenge, but it's just something now that we wouldn't be bringing it to you. Obviously, we didn't think this was really something that I think would be of value to us, to the district, and to continue us, allowing us to move the needle and improve as a district. The other piece I wanted to recognize is Jason Hill. Jason is our advanced math teacher at the high school, teaches upper level math courses. He applied to be a reader for the advanced placement service this summer, and it was pretty neat for me to learn a week ago and have him share with the other high school administrators that he was selected to now go to Kansas City this summer, which means he's going to be there and be sort of on the inside circle to really understand what it takes to achieve at a high level, to really know that inside and out. So I want to congratulate Jason for throwing his hat in the ring and for taking that initiative. Obviously, it's going to be a chunk of his time this summer to do that, but what he'll bring back in return, I have a hunch will be really, really helpful to know, how that'll impact him in the classroom and our kids is obviously a huge plus for us. Building project update, we always like to talk about where we are. The weather has been a blessing, maybe not so much this last week or so, but all you need to do is drive by that project and you'll see now you're going to really see some major walls and infrastructure going up around the pool area. At first it looked like what's going on there. There was a lot, of course, that had to happen underneath. But I want to also offer to the board, if anyone would like to go on a tour, we can certainly do that. Give us a heads up in advance and we'll schedule it out. Even a 15, 20-minute walk out there, it's pretty interesting to see that sort of from the inside out now and see what's going on. The auditorium, for the most part, is enclosed, so they're at the point now of they poured some floors, the back hallway. They can literally pour that morning and they're walking and driving on it now with this new technology. It's pretty amazing to see what's going on. And I want to compliment Ken and Lissa and the many community members that are involved in that committee for fundraising and the enhancements. Another great salute to our community and the many individuals that are donating. We're now over $800,000 in donations for enhancements, and that committee, I believe, is getting together next week to review again where we are and how we want to displace the various monies. So that's hats off to Ken and Lissa and everybody on the committee. Brad, a lot of people are helping with the coordination and getting the word out on that. I also want to thank Nick Singer, who's just recently, maybe about 3 weeks ago, started this shoe drive. Talk about put your best shoe forward, or your gently used shoe forward. I'm putting you on the spot. Do you know off the top of your head how many we've now collected?
I believe we're over 1,000 pairs.
So we're over 1,000 pairs of shoes, and I believe our goal is to get 100 bags of shoes, right?
2,500 pair.
So that would be how many?
2,500 pair.
2,500 pair. The deadline is March 4th, so the district office is pulling our share. We're putting our best foot forward, so we're going to challenge everybody in this room to visit your closet and help out. It was pretty interesting. He shares a video clip, and that's online. You can see that. But it's interesting to note how many kids and countries are unable to even attend school because they don't have shoes to wear, and the difference that can make going back to other countries. So,
is it any kind of shoe?
Any kind of shoe. Boots, athletic, dress shoes, big size, little size, flip-flops, sandals.
Even cowboy boots, right?
Cowboy boots, yeah.
Okay. My last plug is for the Taste of Ashwaubenon. Keith working with the whole committee. This year it's March 16th. It's from 6 until 9:30 again at Stadium View. The ticket prices are $25. We have a record-breaking amount of vendors that came forward now. Again, it just keeps getting larger. And Janet Survey and they've just done an awesome job knocking on doors, getting more people to come forward. So it's always a fun night. Tickets at the door are $35. Tickets in advance are $25. You can go to the jaguarbackers.com site if you want to get more information on that, or just stop in at the high school.
Or I have tickets.
Or Keith has tickets.
I'd be happy to sell them.
So, any other questions from me or other administrators? Okay.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
Move on to J, action items. Open enrollment policy 5113. This is the second reading. This is an annual reading of this, an update of this policy. James, if you have any questions, you gotta pipe up and just let me know or whatever, so that you can, especially on open enrollment and that sort of thing, or any of the topics. You're welcome to just speak up anytime.
Let her fly, huh? All right. Open the door there.
Anybody got any questions on this?
No.
Do we have a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve the open enrollment policy.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to approve open enrollment policy 5113. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, open enrollment, open seats report, or open enrollment seats, I should say. Keith, did you want to go through this, or?
I'll go through it quickly. Basically, the law requires us to declare a number of open seats for open enrollment. This is the number we have to accept if we get that many applications. If we get into the summer or September and we have more applications, we can accept more, but once we set this limit, we can't accept less. It's a difficult thing to project because you don't know how many resident students you're going to have, particularly kindergarten and 4K are difficult. We've been very successful bringing in open enrollment. It has helped us through a lot of budget problems. We do have, I believe it's 89 seniors this year graduating who are open enrollment, so we need to replace those just to stay even. So what we've done is we looked at our projected class size range, and if we look at our high end of our class size range by grade level in 4K through 5th grade, move all our students forward a grade, and how many open seats do we have, how many sections do we need to have in those groups. And then at the high school, we've used 1,075. 1,100 our target, but we know we'll have some resident students come in freshman year. We always do. So whether they go to a parochial school, homeschool, something else, freshman year is a big move-in year. Same thing with 6th grade at Parkview. We see a number of residents every year who come in. So we leave some seats open at Parkview as well. But as you can see, the number of open seats at the high school, 52, and middle school, 92, we don't expect we'll get anywhere near that. But that's how many we would accept if we had that many. It would get us at that target range that we had set for about 1,100 at the high school. So with that said, the biggest group is going to be 4K and K, where we get the most kids, and that's where you see larger numbers. That's the one area where we're really adding sections of teachers based on the number of kids we get. But our experience is if we get them here in kindergarten or 4K, we keep them as long as we keep a resident. So we've had good experience with it.
So those numbers, the 120 in the 4K and K, that's, you're hoping to get at least the 89 to replace the graduates?
Well, it wouldn't just be 4K and K. It would be spread out. Every year we get them spread out between the grades. So between that, but K and 4K are the two biggest areas where we'll get the most new kids coming in. So yeah, we're hoping that by having a larger number there, we'll continue to attract a lot of 4K and K students.
How come in 4K, Keith, and this year you got head count of 200, and when you bring it forward, it goes to 160?
Because we have two sections of kindergarten at Pioneer, and that's 40 students. And you see, we don't show any open seats at Pioneer because we give our residents first shot at Pioneer because it's limited. And then if we wouldn't have enough residents who are interested, we might place open enrollment students there, but we didn't want to be required to if we had enough residents who wanted Pioneer for kindergarten.
Okay. So basically it comes down to if we didn't have the kindergarten at Pioneer, we could not accept kindergarten open enrollment students.
Unless we added on to the building or move 4K off-site or things like that, those would be our options.
Okay.
So actually, there's not really a lot of room in 1 through 5 at either building, besides first grade in Valley View. Then your natural transition to 6th grade in Parkview.
And we don't usually see more than a handful of kids per grade at a building once you get into those grades. But I don't want to say there isn't room. If we wanted to, we could add a section in several of these grade levels. There would be room in the building. But what we've typically done is tried to fill the open seats in those grades and keep that class size in that range so it fits with the number of students. And as you look at the grade level class sizes, they slowly inch up as each grade level goes on. So you need to add a couple each year to try to keep yourself in that class size range.
Are we ever going to get to the point where enough is enough?
That, in my opinion, would hinge on what happens with our resident students. 2 years ago, we saw a 100-student resident drop, and it was kind of unexpected. Last year, we were fairly level, small drop, about 10, I believe. So it all depends on what happens with our resident students. But realize when we're graduating almost 90 students to seniors, if we can get 90 more residents coming in, our budget is better off. Everything's better off if we have resident students. We're just not seeing that come in. So if we start seeing the resident students, I could see us starting to cap it. And that really is a function where we start looking at 4K and K, because that's where the majority of our new applicants come in.
So you're anticipating many years down the road before this would happen?
Especially with the last couple of years, what's happened with our resident enrollment taking that dip again, we've got some room.
Okay, so we need to approve this numbers.
Yes.
Just got a quick question.
Sure.
So you said most students that open enroll end up staying.
Correct.
In Ashwaubenon. Do you have any, is there anybody that open enrolls other schools that leaves Ashwaubenon?
We do have, I think it's just under 100, so about in 90s this year that we ended up with open enroll out. 96. So we do have some. And that number has grown a little in the last couple of years, but it hasn't grown significantly.
It actually dropped back. We were a little over 100 last year.
So
And the majority, when we surveyed those parents, the majority we find are kids started in another district and they wanted to stay in that district. So we've never had those students. But there might be a couple who are in online schools or other things as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
James, to give you an idea, we have 1,043 kids open enrolled into the district and 96 out.
Seems like a good ratio.
Pretty good.
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Good motion and a second to approve the open enrollment seats as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, open enrollment, open seats, special education. Tammy, this is a little bit different here.
It's a little bit different. Similar to last year, I made it a little bit more detailed this year, just in case somebody were to file a complaint. It's a little bit more laid out. As I did last year, I weighted all of the students in special education as a level 1, level 2, or level 3 student, depending on the needs of the student. And then based on that, I came up with a student factor number using the information provided by DPI that they give as caseload factors to look at. So what I'm looking at for any teachers in grades, special ed teachers grades 1 to 12, any special ed teachers would have a minimum of 26 as that factor number and a maximum of 26, but I want them to have a minimum of 18. So it would be anywhere from 18 to 26 would be that factor number. I'm setting a minimum on that because we have had so many referrals and students move into the district in the last year. I need to have a minimum number there that says once we hit that minimum, we're not going to take any open enrollment students because we need to leave room for students who do move into the district. This year we found since February 1st of 2015 up until almost the end of January, where we almost are now, we've had an additional 76 referrals in the district, and of those we've had more than half of them placed. 25 of those are still in progress. So we need to leave room for some of the kids that are already here. We also found that this year we had 31 students move into the district, either at the beginning of the school year or within the first few months after that. We had a few move out, but not nearly as many that moved in. As you know, we had to add a full-time aide position at Cormier. We may need to add another one based on another student that may be coming in as well. So we've had a lot of high needs kids come in and a lot of special ed kids come in. So for speech and language, what I'm looking at is when I'm doing the factoring of those students, we'd be looking at a maximum of 40 students and a minimum of 25. The only variation to that is at Cormier, because as we know, a lot of those 4- and 5-year-olds who come in aren't in special ed. We get a lot of our referrals there. So for the kindergarten and pre-kindergarten teacher, we're going to have a minimum caseload factor of 12, and I'm recommending a minimum caseload factor of 25 for speech and language there. As you look at the projections, I have option 1 and option 2. Option 1 does not have any openings at any of the grade levels for special education for next year. Option 2 would have a projected opening of 4 kindergarten students at Cormier, and that would be if we increase a 0.5 speech and language position in the district based on the numbers that we have. Right now, our maximum for students, based on our current enrollment and staffing, we could have 210 speech and language students in the district. We're starting at 190 based on what we have right now without any move-in students or new students qualifying. So we're really seeing our numbers as being high this year, and we're looking at increasing that. The benefit of doing it this year is starting in the fall, for every special ed student we have that's open enrolled into our district, we will receive $12,000. Typically, what we receive is $6,639 per open enrollment student. So that additional revenue is giving us about $5,361 per special ed student that we get above and beyond. So if we take 4 additional speech and language students, that just about covers the cost of the 0.5 speech and language position. The difference, if there is a difference, if we don't end up with other students who might qualify or something this spring, I can cover that through the flow-through grant.
So in both situations, you're not looking at any additional students beyond the 4 speech and language students?
Correct. That is correct.
Is it typical of what we've been doing?
Last year we took, we had a few openings at the elementary level and a couple at Parkview, but based on the needs, I believe we only accepted 1 student. Would that be right, Jennifer? 1 at Parkview?
Yes.
And do we have any applications now? Do you know that?
Just started.
He doesn't start till Monday.
Never mind.
I would say.
Prior to last year,
We had
we-
about 20, maybe
yeah.
last year, 20 applicants.
But prior to last year, we had no space. We didn't take any.
Yeah,
Last year, we opened it up a little bit.
But Tammy should get credit. She's done a lot of work on these ratios and make it so it's more formulaic as to how we decide and to weight the students by the amount of need, things like that. It's been a lot of her time to have something that truly has a better representation of the workload for a special education teacher, so we can make sure we're not underutilizing somebody, but also not overwhelming them. And I think this is a very good system for determining if we have capacity in our staff. And looking at the year we've had here, where we've had a lot of students referred, especially at Cormier, where we didn't know they were coming in with that, we need to keep some flexibility there.
When did we start getting $12,000?
That starts for this coming school year. That was
It's
a
not
new.
prorated or anything like
No.
some of the other formulas? are?
All special ed, if an open enrollment student has any special ed designation, it's the same amount as that $12,000 amount. So when we get to budget, you'll notice we do have some special ed open enrollment in district, so that's going to help us budgetarily, because the students we're already serving who are open enrollment, we will get more money for next year.
So is that kind of an incentive for districts to accept special ed kids?
It's less of a disincentive, because a special ed student's obviously going to cost more because of the
Right.
services they're getting than a regular ed student. So they really were creating a disincentive to take them before. So this helps offset some of it. But as you know, Jay, the range of need in a special ed student is so great that is it enough to cover most special ed students? Probably not. I'm not saying that 12,000 is a perfect system.
So if we have a special ed student that's open enrollment in the program now, and they have an aid, now how is that aid paid? Is that state funded, or is that coming from us?
It depends.
We used to be able to go back and put a separate tuition agreement together for those students, and that did happen on occasion, not very often. It had to be something like an aid that was clearly additional for that student.
Right.
The way it'll work in this realm is we won't be allowed to do that anymore. We will still get the handicapped aid from the state, so we get a percentage of that person's salary back. The state helps with that. So that would be where we would be if someone needed those additional services. But I don't anticipate students who need that high a service, a lot of districts accepting or seeing them move through open enrollment, because that $12,000 cap really makes it difficult to accept a very expensive student.
I appreciate the formula that's been given to us and the ability to see where you're coming from, but I think what's been presented is a really slippery slope. And I say that because in the past years, we've asked, why would we not increase staff to accommodate special education students? And we've always said no. So now that it becomes profitable, so to speak, to increase staff in what is probably the least expensive special education category, it doesn't sit well with me. And so I think we need to decide what our stance is. We either do or do not increase our staff to accommodate open enrollment, but I don't think we would pick and choose between them. Now, this year, you might tell me, well, the numbers just work this year, so it makes sense to do it there. But just the philosophy behind it doesn't sit well with me.
I don't see us adding staff every year. This year, we need, and I have Jody's here, she can speak to it as well. We have a lot of speech needs, and they are really, really strapped and trying to help each other in many different buildings. So regardless of taking 4 additional students, we certainly still need that extra support for speech and language. It's not just because of the open enrollment. I mean, it works out in our favor this year because of that, but I don't see us coming and saying, oh, we're going to add staff every year to be able to
So
do
I would
that.
just not tie the two. If we need staff for our speech and language department, come to the board and ask us for that maybe. And then this would allow us to see that there are now openings for that. But to tie the two
I don't know
is
that we
not.
can do it after the 31st though, can we?
Yeah, we can't,
We
we have to
can't change
approve
our
the seats
projections
now.
is what-
And really the problem becomes, Jenny, I understand what you're saying, but the problem becomes, when we bring a staffing addition mid-school year, how are we gonna fund it? And then if I were sitting in your chair, that's what I'd be asking when someone brought, okay, we need to add staff in whatever program. As a board member, you ask, how are we gonna fund it? This is how we were able to show we're able to fund it and make it work, but they are definitely spread really thin at Cormier right now with the identified cases they have. So I think it is justified to add the staff even without the open enrollment seats. But if we add the staff, I think we've got some capacity. And that's how, in my mind, I always look at how we're going to pay for what we're going to add without taking away from every other kid in the district. And this is a way that we could make it work.
When these reports came out and everything, and I was looking at them, and when I seen the proposal of adding a half-time teacher, I was thinking, okay, you know, how much does a teacher cost us? And we're getting $6,000. I said it doesn't make sense to add a teacher at that. But if we're getting, I see the needs as far as the even if we didn't add the teacher at other grade levels when I was going through the reports as well, and it makes it a little more palatable probably for workloads for everybody across the board. So I mean that I didn't know that they increased that number though, and that just otherwise I was in the same realm as Ginny. Why do we want to add a teacher for this? I don't know, we had any other questions on this, or where are we at?
When are you proposing, I should look and read, because you probably told me. When are we proposing adding the .5, beginning now, beginning next fall?
Next fall, we would have to post the position. I would, if we approve the open enrollment projections, if we approve option 2, what I would be doing is taking the discussion back to the speech and language team, talking to them about, okay, if we add a position, what is it going to look like? How are we going to be able to split up the caseloads and do this so it makes the most sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right now we have people at Valley View and Parkview and the high school going down to help out the 2 people that are at Cormier and going into the daycares and the private schools to service kids. So we want to figure out a better way to make that work so we don't have people running all over the place and they can spend more time with kids rather than time actually in vehicles driving between buildings servicing kids as well.
Can you remind me what you said? When we approve a number of open enrollments, we can't accept less than that,
Correct.
But we can accept more?
After a certain date, then you can start accepting more. So that after 10% June.
So if we said
Accept more
0, and if we said 0, you could still accept for
Right.
speech and language.
In summer,
You just,
during the summer.
during the summer. I think what I'm getting at is where in our budget cycle does adding .5 fit? Does it need to be part of your I mean, when would you normally talk about adding staff as an administrative group?
It would be this springtime. We were talking today as an administrative team about adding what we're going to do staffing in other areas. So it would be part of that if we didn't have a funding source for it.
Keith, if I say there's no room though, can I add in June?
After the
Yeah.
application.
After the, I think it's like the first Friday in June. So you can.
So would you anticipate getting 4K? I mean, is it pretty prevalent that they come in with speech and language issues?
I don't know.
Most of them that we get that I denied last year were either 4K, kindergarten, or first grade kids with speech and language. Most of those are speech and language kids, and parents say and rightfully so, they get upset because their child might have a few articulation errors, and we say you can't come to our district because of that because we don't have room. And so what we had happen last year is a few parents actually pulled their kids out of special ed so that they could then change their status to get into the district, and then their students go without services. I hate to see parents do that.
Did I hear that correct when you said 20? You get about 20 applications overall for special ed?
Last year I had roughly about 20 applications.
That's all grades, or is that the?
For special ed, that was district-wide. Mostly at the elementary level. I think we had one for an alternative high school. We had a couple at Parkview, but usually it's more elementary.
But those weren't all speech and language.
Okay.
No, they weren't all.
That's everything.
Yeah.
Correct.
No, here's my dilemma that I'm thinking about, and I understand the need for the kids to have a quality education and wanting to come here because the teachers and staff do an excellent job in providing that service. But then again, you hear as they grow, they stay here, and how do we meet the needs when they get your ACT scores and the scores at the higher grades, and if they're still here? And because we got a higher, higher population of the kids that score lower on the test possibly, right? So now we're look like we've not.
Typically, the kids that tend to bring our scores down typically are more of the students that might have a cognitive disability, possibly learning disability in some areas.
So are they included in this?
No, it's just speech
Okay.
and language.
Okay, just
Speech
speech.
would be-
What's service level 1 through 3 then?
Service level 1 through 3, that is more of the students with emotional behavioral disabilities, learning disabilities, cognitive disabilities, autism, hearing impaired, visually impaired. That would be more of the service level 1 through 3. Now, we aren't accepting any students with visual or hearing impaired either, because we contract through CISA for that, and that would be going above and beyond with our FTE through CISA, so we don't accept any students in those areas.
Okay.
Do you have any advice to clear this up for me? I just have a really hard time tying them together, because it's like profit motive, and it's not.
Well, it's not
It
really
doesn't
profit,
sit well.
because we're not making any money.
Well-
I mean, it's gonna help pay for things.
I have never
It's not
seen.
profitable.
I have never been
We're not
presented.
a rich district.
I've never been presented with an increase in special education staff to accommodate students until this fall, when the open enrollment jumped from 6,000 to 12,000. So that's.
I can see, yeah, and I totally see where you're coming from. That's not my motivation for doing it at all. It's more the motivation of, we have a lot of kids in speech and language, and we need to add a 0.5. This seems to be a logical way to do it. If we increase that number to take 4 kids to help out, I would be coming to the board, even if we didn't have that, trying to find money to be able to pay for this regardless.
In my mind, that's the tipping point. I'm not gonna put Jody on the spot, but I know how excessively high those numbers are this year. So you put those 4 aside, what that staff is doing right now to make this all work. We're gonna tip people over here. That will help us provide services for the kids currently in the program. And the other thing, in terms of using speech as an example, and I'm not the expert that the 2 of them are, obviously, but if there's an area where students are typically released out of the program because they get that service early on, that's the critical time. That's the area in special ed where you see students totally exiting that area. But I think the tipping point is the excessively high numbers we have right now and the help that they need to service our kids going forward. And it seems to be a pattern, talking to other superintendents in the area, the identified number of students with special needs and in the mental health area clearly is an issue. It's on the rise, and we saw a lot of attention. And I'm grateful to the press for exposing something that we don't have services for in the county. Not to get off track with mental health, but that's a whole other issue in itself. But I think the tipping point for this is the excessively high numbers we have. Even taking those 4 students away makes sense, the right thing to do.
So the half-time teacher is not going to be just teaching 4 students, going to be teaching all of them.
That would be a very minimal part of their.
Yeah.
That's right.
What if-
That's right.
He or
What
she
if
will
we-
have a caseload of probably anywhere from 25 to 30 students starting the school year.
What if we okayed the 4 spots and did not okay the 0.5? Just wait until I finish speaking, because obviously, and then put it back to administration to put the 0.5 into your staffing plan. Does that allow your system to work, or does that outside of your system? Because I understand the desire to have a formula for deciding the numbers.
I don't know if I want to do that, Ginny. We're going to have a different board here in another 3 months, 2 months. Doesn't say that we're not going to have any changes in what's going to happen, but I mean.
Well, it sounds to me like the 0.5 is needed regardless. And so I just don't.
I don't know why.
I
that
think
would-
tying it to this is really an error, because I think it opens up. If someone comes in and says, I got rejected because of special education, and you say, well, there's not room, and they say, well, you added staff to accommodate these 4, why wouldn't you add staff to accommodate mine? I mean, I just think that's, in my mind, my personal mind, wrong, but also very slippery slope. So I would not tie the 2 together.
I kind of agree with Jenny too, because of the fact that we're looking here, we're supposed to be looking here at special ed open enrollment, not at adding a teacher. That should come out of Keith's budget. So if I were to approve this with adding the 4, it would be adding the 4 and not the halftime speech teacher. That would come later.
So
Can you do that?
Yes, that's really what we do on the
Yes.
regular ed side. Kindergarten, for example, we're going to add the staff if we get the kids. So there may be a kindergarten teacher more or less, one more than what we have this year if we get enough open enrollment applications. So, and we do that based on getting those applications in. It's just in kindergarten's case, it's more than 4. It's quite a few to have that section. But in this case, we probably need to add it. As long as you're comfortable with it and comfortable with approving the 4 students in speech and language, knowing that our staff already is stretched too thin to accommodate those 4, that we're going to need to do the ad. I'm fine with.
The only problem with it is, if you approve it projecting 4 openings, it's not going with any of the information in caseload formula. Because we're already, if we look at option 1, which is what we'd be approving, but with 4 students, we would be working off our regular FTE right now, and we're already starting out at 26.7. And we're saying up on top that we're looking at starting out a minimum of 25, and if we go for 25, we're not accepting additional kids.
Then I say we do number 1, and Keith brings back the speech and language in the budget.
So then we're not going to approve any open seats.
No open seats.
Once we get to June or July, we can
Ban
approve them
them
if
at
we
that
want.
point.
And if we had staff, we do that.
Yep, then if we
Yeah.
had staff, we do it.
I'll make
That's
that
fine.
motion.
Okay with that?
The only problem with that is you're playing with the families. When you have 0 open seats, I have to send them a letter telling them that they have been denied due to space and they're put on a waiting list. And then a week later, they get a letter saying, you've been approved. So you put this huge disappointment on them and they get angry. And then in a week, they get a letter saying, now you've been approved.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that, and I think to myself, you're so close to the start of the school year, and you're talking about logistics, there's nothing I hate more as teachers that are valuable, and now you've got them moving between schools, and you've gotta give them more prep time, and all that, when we really need them with the students, so you have this shortage. And now we're going through this little logistics of timing, and having that happen to families.
And they get upset because if they have 3 kids that they've opened and enrolled and one is a speech and language child and we approve 2 and we don't approve the 3rd, but in a week they get a letter with the 3rd. Well, they've already now changed their minds and they're angry.
And is it also a case of finding that half person or half an FTE person with enough time to make
Right.
sure that you're getting the right person rather than an emergency?
That was really difficult for us this year, and Maria can talk to that
Especially
as
in
well.
special ed.
We had to post a couple times because we just didn't have qualified people that we felt were appropriate. So we ended up hiring a person and splitting that person with Howard Swamigo just to get a body in here to work with kids. So it is difficult to fill speech positions.
So if we were to approve that half position tonight, would you start the recruiting process earlier, much earlier?
Yeah, I would definitely
start
foresee
now.
meeting with the
You could
speech
start
group
now.
in February and then posting whatever that position would look like.
So we'd get a better qualified, capable person for the kids. So are we looking to do what's right for the kids or what?
And all the rest of the kids that are already in our district.
Already in the program. So it sounds like it
Better for the
might make more
teachers.
sense to approve the half position tonight, is what I'm hearing from administration.
Is it fair to approve that in isolation of other staffing requests? And that would actually be, I don't know, you can say yes.
I think it's fair. I think there's a need and it gets us started, but I understand your reservations and I don't disagree with your impression of what impression that gives people, and that is a slippery slope we have to be careful.
And I do respect you saying that, Ginny, and I can see where it's coming from. As far as the funding, it's not coming out of the general fund, because it would be coming out of, I would be covering it through, I mean, what if we don't have 4 kids apply? Then I need to find that money out of my flow-through budget to cover it. So it wouldn't be coming out of the general fund, so it's not like it's taking away from something that one of the other principals might have a need for in their building. It would be coming out of what we're providing other special ed kids, because we feel that it's a priority to have that staff member to service those kids, to have fewer numbers so that we're able to meet their needs. So I would be finding the money out of the flow-through budget for that if I needed to do that.
So could we do this then? Could we approve option 2 with just the 4 open enrollment student possibility? And then do another motion to approve the half-time speech and language position?
Do them separately, you're saying?
Do them
Two
separate.
separate motions?
Yes. So they're not tied together.
Yeah.
And that way it gives you the ability to find something that works.
So what's your motion?
Did I just say it?
What's your first motion?
My first motion would be to.
Yeah, approve the staff first.
Okay,
Approve the staff
yeah,
first.
yeah, good. Okay, so my first motion would be to approve the .5 position for speech and language. And then my second
No,
motion.
just one at a time, please.
Okay.
We have a second for that?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the halftime speech and language teacher. Is there any other discussion?
Can I just ask a quick question? Just something you said earlier about, so you have students that, or you have families that they sign up for open enrollment with a special needs kid, let's say it's speech and language, and you turn them away because there's no room. And then did you say that they sometimes then sign back up without that specification
What
as a
they
special
will do
needs
is go to
person, or
their
is it?
home- we had a few families last year go to their home district and sign their student out of special ed, saying they don't want them to receive services because then their status changes to be a regular ed student. So then if they show that their status changed, they could be accepted.
That year or the next year?
That
They have to wait a whole
upcoming
year?
school year. No.
So they could come, okay.
So then in June, they would show that information to Jennifer. Jennifer would say a change of status, then they would be approved. Now, I do inform parents that if you have a student who is under open enrollment and they qualify for special ed, that is also a change in status, so we technically could say there is no room and then send them back to their home district. That is not.
So do you do that after they've started in the fall?
We have the right to do that.
So the parent kind of deceptively brings their child here.
Mhm.
We identify it in those first weeks of school. We can decline them and send them back to their home district.
We do have the option to do that, yes. So I do inform
Yeah.
parents of that if they, if they really want to go down that route. We've had some parents say they were going to do that and then they didn't, because I've talked to
How
them
often?
and just said, it's not in your child's best
No.
interest to do
Mhm.
this, they need the services. But we did have a couple people do it this year.
Because you're saying you, like they said, you need this person anyway, regardless of these extra 4.
Correct.
Okay.
So what is the proposed, in your motion, proposed start date of the .5?
It would be next school year, the beginning of fall school year.
And I would come to the board with the approval of whomever
Right,
hopefully
just
we
like-
find to hire for that position as well.
So you said you have a halftime person now that we share with Howard Swamico. Is that somebody that you'd be looking to hear?
We would post, depending what we post, how we post the position, that might be she might decide to apply for the position.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, I'll make another motion, and this would be to, for the special ed open enrollment for speech to have projected 4 openings in speech and language at Cormier.
Is that the only school that's out of school? Okay, we got a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, any other discussion?
Do you need to say 0 elsewhere to make this a complete motion?
I think you're saying
I
there's
mean-
just 4
Just
special
4.
openings in speech and language at Cormier, it's fine.
Oh, okay, so that's
Yeah.
the extent of our special ed openings, okay.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll go on to number 4, van purchase.
That's me too. I'm just looking for approval to purchase the special ed van to replace the 2001 Chevy van that was in need of a lot of repair. We ended up getting a quote from Broadway Chev. We also traded in the van, so we ended up paying $29,769.50 for the van. It's a pretty nice van. We're hoping to do services through Broadway as well. So it runs, it starts, it gets kids where they need to go. We happen to get it the Friday before the cold weather set in, and it has auto start, so the people driving it are just in heaven. It's getting heated up a little now too. So
Sounds far too nice.
yeah, it actually has heat, so that's a great thing. So.
Well.
Need a motion for this?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This comes forward because it goes over $10,000.
So another 16 years coming back for that one?
Well, we have two other ones that are in dire need of repair, but I don't have money to repair them. And, well, I have money to repair them, but not to replace them just yet. So you may hear me coming back to you this summer about possibly replacing one of the other two yet.
And this is not just a regular van, right? This is a
Correct.
special
Yep.
setup with ramp and...
No, it's not with a ramp. It is a
That's what I was
It's an
wondering.
8-passenger.
Just a regular 8-passenger van?
Well, not a regular one. It's more of a van that the doors open so you have easy access to the back seating rather than a regular minivan. It's much larger than that.
Sure.
It's quite ugly, to be honest with you. It's not real appealing, but pretty basic. But there's room in the back for storage. There's a hitch for towing, so when we take kids off site and do different activities, we have that available as well.
Did we consider a used one?
We did. We looked, and what our problem became is that a number of dealerships will not sell to school districts any longer because of the liability, because you're transporting students around. So they were very reluctant to do that. Broadway Chev was still willing to do it. We found a dealership in the Fox Valley that had talked to us about it, but then when they talked to their legal consultant, they discouraged them from selling us the used vehicle.
And the other problem with used, Brian, is this van could hold 3 more students, then it wouldn't be legal for us to use. So if a private business buys it, they buy it with the extra 3 seats, and then when it's sold, we can't buy it because the regulations on a van can only carry so many students, or else it has to be a school bus with all the safety equipment, the flashing lights, and a CDL driver, and all those requirements. So we're in a difficult spot with what we can buy.
Sure. Okay.
You would think there's more of these vehicles out there, but it was really, really difficult. They ended up going over to Eau Claire, I believe, to pick this one up because they couldn't find other ones in the States. So I was surprised. I would have thought there were just all kinds of them out there, but.
But when you said 8-passenger, that answered it for me, because just for the company I work for, I just bought 2 vans that were like Dodge Grand Caravans, but they don't hold 8 passengers. And there were quite a number of used vehicles available. In fact, one of them we bought at Broadway. But when you say 8-passenger, I don't recall seeing any of those when we were searching.
In a minivan, it becomes difficult to get to that back seat. It's harder, so it doesn't work as well. And I don't think it's as safe when you're dealing with that load of people. So this van's much heavier duty frame-wise. It's got a truck frame, not a car frame like a minivan.
Correct. Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Especially when you look at some of our more physically disabled students trying to get in and out of those back seats of the van. Those minivans are really difficult for them. This gives them much more access.
I understand. That's fine.
Okay, we got a motion of second to purchase a van. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, community partnerships funding. Now, this is an unusual one that come forward. And we got several different options in front of us here, and Brian has brought this forward to me, and I said, I think we better have the board take a look at this and see what you want to do, because this is totally different than what we've ever done in the past.
And we typically like to come to you with a recommendation, and for a lot of reasons we wrestle with this. We have 2 businesses that are offering, you have all the information in the write-up, to provide money, but also they're asking, could we advertise in this way or in that way? And we have a multitude of ways that we raise money across the district, as you know, from naming rights to I learned about another one from Nick at the Optimist meeting this past week, a third-party vendor that talks to businesses, and you've seen them. There are athletic calendars with the various businesses around the schedules. That's something that they obviously recognize the profit. We get the actual poster out of that one in that case. We've got other individuals in kind that donate all different kinds of things, not expecting anything. And then, of course, now one that could raise as much as $10,000 to $20,000 a year. We're just coming to you just to get your opinion. We throw out ideas of we could create a general website to acknowledge those individuals annually, update that website so we're giving everyone credit if they're in any way at all supporting kids. Obviously that could be $10 or it could be $20,000 or at least that would be a way to do that. We have all kinds of needs financially, as you know. The fitness room at the high school, through the grant and all the work years ago that we put into that facility, that equipment, of course, has a shelf life and it's highly expensive. So another concept that we brainstormed would be, could we designate donor X, that money will go towards that facility, maybe in that area we put up a posting, or another concept was all the buildings have bulletin boards by entrances for the most part. Do we, just in that area, we don't want it to become a walking billboard. We certainly don't want our website to look that way. We all feel pretty strongly about that. But on the other hand, the revenue opportunity and that opportunity to partner with people, we want to be respectful and not just honor this one and not the other one. So that's very important to us that we're not, favoring one business over another because we have so many great partners. So we bring this to you just for some guidance, but this is unique in that, especially the one particular request from the orthodontist, if what they're sharing with us, it could be $10,000 to $20,000 a year. That can make a significant impact on, a lot of things. And in that case, they're not designating where the money would go to, what that money would go toward. That would be our decision to make.
So how does that work exactly, Brian? Now, is it something that this orthodontist is going to pass this sheet of paper out to all the kids, and then for every orthodontics business that they want to have, or they pay whatever,
$50, or what was that, the dollar? I believe it was 50.
Yeah, $50 per student.
$50 per student. How did they propose it to us, if that's your question? Initially, they were thinking in terms of Friday folders for elementary students. But we explained we no longer really do paper Friday folders. That's now very electronic. But I'm not saying they wouldn't be open to if we came back and said, we could allow this. I intentionally try to come to you with some ideas. The website idea, designate an area. Another area we've talked about, I hear the principals every year talking about more and more students that are in need, where they're taking money out of their building funds to pay for fees and certain things. Certainly, we would not have a shortage of ways to use the money. The complicated part is being respectful about not being biased toward any one business, and also not becoming, their advertising agency solely, or I'm not saying that very well, but I think you know what I'm saying. Our mission is to educate kids. Certainly there's a benefit to a business and a write-off opportunity. We understand that, but it's just how do we want to do this? There are a lot of things that we have supported that we haven't really had open discussions about. Target in the past has done something similar to this. Who Hut has done special nights. Smart Cow is another one that would designate certain nights. So, but those are more 1 or 2 time things. This is more regular, is what we're seeing. From a realtor, I sell a house, the school district gets X amount of money, and certainly they want to be able to show that partnership with the district. The orthodontist is probably the most unique one in terms of, it's a pretty big amount of revenue. If they're close and they're saying 10,000, they're estimating $10,000 to $20,000 with what their gift would be. So We knew this would not be an easy discussion. We wrestled with it for a couple of months, but came to the conclusion. I looked at policies. Jen was nice to pull policies that tied. You have those attached. It really gives you the ultimate authority, but we don't have the parameters to say, well, this fits, so yes, it's not that black and white. And
So what are other districts doing? Is there any precedence to things like this that we're aware of?
No, I think in a lot of ways, a lot of districts are wrestling with the same things. I know every year I send our naming rights policy to 2 or 3 districts a year. But you're seeing more of this because of the pinch on revenue. I mean, we really are. More and more districts are trying to find ways to seek other revenue because it's either that or they go without or the kids go without.
But if you go back 10 or 15 years ago, districts were going exclusive marketing with Pepsi, for example, and they would take a cut. And there were a lot of districts, and not 50%, but there were a notable number of districts who signed contracts like that and did exclusive marketing or exclusive, that's the only thing we're going to sell in our district of this type of product. Those have kind of fallen by the wayside because of the nutritional requirements that you're not allowed to sell those things anymore. So I haven't heard of a lot of districts going this way. I know of a couple that do more advertising than what we do. And their statement, as I've talked to my counterpart in their district, is if someone's going to pay to put a sign up here or do this, if it's not something that's not healthy for children, if it's not alcohol, tobacco, soda, if it's something, a financial institution, if it's an orthodontist, something like that, they're going to use those services anyway. Why not give people the idea these are organizations that support us? So that's that district's philosophy. I'm not saying that's right for us, and I don't think we want to become, where our newsletters are a bunch of ads with some newsletter. I think we have to guard against that because we have enough struggle getting people to read our newsletters. Now that they're online, we're hearing there's less reading of that, so we have to balance it. But it's also a struggle with, it's a significant amount of money, and when we're struggling for money, a $10,000 bump could do some things that we're struggling with administratively. How can we make it work?
There's a conversation I had with a community member that really struck me, and they said they were sitting in the stands at the football stadium, and they looked over to see the name of our field house, and they were so taken aback because they, as a taxpayer, had paid for the field house, not the company that gave us the money to pay for whatever it went for. And I really took that to heart because they really were upset about it and didn't have an opportunity to speak their mind and would probably not have supported that choice. I feel very similar about this. $10,000 is really, it sounds like a lot, but compared to our budget and compared to some other things that have been, I don't know, there's so many people who do so much for this district. I don't want to change it because of a dollar sign. What I can imagine doing is establishing a universal policy that would be not in one night at a board table, but would be applied to everyone. It might be something like on a website, if you have helped out the district and you want to be listed on a page, but not even with a link off to their site. I mean, it would be simply an acknowledgement or something.
You're not going to get that kind of donations if you do something like that.
But see, if you look at how Target did theirs, they weren't at all in our school. They said, if you open a charge card, we get to give 5% or whatever percent to whatever district you choose. This orthodontist has the same opportunity to advertise themselves with their own advertising dollars. If you come to us, we're going to give you, we're going to donate $50 to your favorite school, and that they can do that, and they can still donate the money, and they can still benefit from the advertising, but the advertising is outside of our walls. Same with the realtor. If you come and, if I sell your house for you, I'm going to donate $150 to your favorite school. Now, chances are, if they're moving out of the district, it won't be us. But that's my opinion. I mean, otherwise.
That's why I knew it was 10
Why didn't you wait till May?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, maybe, and I don't know that, again, we're not going to solve it tonight, but if we did have I don't know what you would call it, even not authorized, but recognized company sponsors, or whatever you want to call it, that that we approve what they're asking for, and it's probably got to be fairly limited as to what we would approve and how we would approve of the marketing. It's not like we're going to send out mass emails. I don't know that they're asking for us to send out mass emails or include them in every single weekly Wednesday online posting. I'm not sure, but perhaps we need to look at putting some guidelines around something like this, because I don't know how this is a lot different than contributions that we get through a Taste of Ashwaubenon or many others, and I don't like to turn away money. It's not as though people aren't bombarded with advertisements. So if they're bombarded with one more in some way that is controlled by us, and we benefit as a result of it, I don't know that I have a real problem with that. But I think we have to understand what the controls are, and and what are approved or sanctioned companies that we would include in that list, or in that type of a program.
Well, I think we agree with what you're saying, is that we have to come up with a proposed recognition level of how we're going to do this, if you're going to do it. If it's putting it on a web page, okay, so be it. I mean, maybe that's what it is. Or if it's a sign recognition in the school, what is it, and how much are we going to charge for that, or how are we going to set those standards?
How do we control it, right? How do we set that type of guidance? And I'd wonder what other districts are doing, and it sounds like there's not a lot of activity to speak of.
The donations that are going on for the pool and auditorium and stuff and everything, I mean, that's another form of the same thing, I think, too. So, I mean, this is a little bit different, but I would really like to hear the proposal from them on what we have to do to be able to get that.
Right. What are they asking of us?
Well, their idea was the take-home folder, and put what their program was on the back of the folder. So they buy the folder, and their thought was that goes home every week to the students, and that would be the way that it gets out there and it would help us because they pay for the folder and then contribute to us. That was the idea they came to us with, and we've kind of, since we don't have that option, tried to look for other options. And as we did that, we said we better get board input on what our options are that are workable.
I know that if we did that option where you'd had something that you took home physically, I know that I could get at least 3 more donors to do that right now.
And see, I think that's where we have to think about it and be real mindful that certainly you don't allow bars and tobacco companies, all the even the sugar in sodas. You have to be careful of what you would allow, and have the ability to turn it off if something goes wrong. If that company suddenly goes out of favor with the public, or something that we feel uncomfortable with, one of their employees does, or bad news or something like that, news coverage. But to turn down an opportunity for a marketing, I'm interested in the marketing opportunity side of it, and what would we have to do, and what does it expose our parents to, or our schools to, and how is it any different really than all of the other great things that companies and individuals do day in and day out for us? It's just a different way, just a little bit different, and so I think we need to study it a little more.
I think we need a little bit more information. I'd like to see this get tabled.
Yeah, I agree.
So you want to take and have administration take a look at?
I would think so, just to give us.
Will give us an example of what we would structure a policy to this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been approached by so many different. I personally have dealt with a lot. I think of a restaurant that had cards that we were giving away to all the parents. Get them out to the parents. If you eat in our restaurant on this day, actually it was every Wednesday, then you will get 10% of the check. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty good. But do we really want to be handing that out, doing their advertising for them, for a chance at some benefit? There's some things that I think you'd like to do, some things that maybe you don't want to do.
It depends on what level that they're willing to do.
So if you want, we can talk to them, have them come with a proposal, explain to them that we don't have the regular take-home, and work with them to see if they have other ideas and see what, because we didn't go back to them and say, we don't have this, how, what else do you want to do? We started thinking, what else would work for this? What else could we propose to them? But we can go back to these two companies and say, what else would you propose? We're not comfortable with this, or we don't do this anymore, and see if they have other ideas. That's fine. We can see.
Can you look at the people who do give to the district and come up with something that's uniform to all? I mean, I don't even know how to say that, but well, there's the Smart Cows, and there's other realty companies, and
it's kind of like the back of the church bulletin. You've got all kinds of different businesses that are listed because they're sponsors or supporters in some way, shape, or form.
They got to pay for that.
Right.
They do.
But that's what these people are proposing to do. They're proposing to give us a substantial amount of money in exchange for some marketing. And now marketing can take a lot of different forms. We could be doing commercials between timeouts at athletic events. I mean, for money. I mean, we don't do that right now, but who's to say? Budgets are tight. And marketing's a pretty broad term. So I think we have to think about what we're willing to do and the controls that we would have to keep it in check, depending on the public mood or what's going on in the world at the time. We may choose to pull something because we're not supportive of it. But authorized or sanctioned sponsors that are friends of the schools or whatever you want to call them, and you create your list, you create your what you're willing to do or not.
I think that it's, if we can say we're exploring a church, we haven't done this before with those companies, use them as an example, and see what levels they're willing to do for what we're willing to give.
The big difference between what you talked about with like church program, things like that, there it's a set dollar amount for the ad. Mm-hmm. This is really how effective is whatever we do, how much business do they get, how much they pay is dependent on how much business. And that creates a whole nother level of issues.
It depends. What do we do? What do we have to do in order to garner that? And if it's posting it on our website, it's not a lot of effort. It doesn't require effort by staff, by students, participation by parents. It's just
I think we need to table it right now and find out some more information.
Because that's my question, this $50 per student is if a student goes there and gets their orthodontic work done there? So that's what so they're basically saying that they're hoping to capture between 200 and 400 students in our district.
That's right.
And then in return, they'll give us $10,000 to $20,000. But we're gonna do the advertising. So.
In reality, they're capturing a good percentage of our district already.
I was going to say, they're the only one in town that I know of that's...
and this is a new dentist.
Well, new to that clinic, but the clinic's been there for 20 years.
Well, that's the other question.
The dentist is new.
Right.
Is it new students or students they already have?
They made it sound like students they have as clients.
Which is great. They're looking for another way to market.
So here's another example. On Amazon, you can do it's Amazon Smile, and you just check out. So as a consumer, I would like to know how can I best benefit my school district. So if I knew the opportunities available to me, that's one thing. And maybe if it's consolidated in one spot. So I'm the consumer searching for that information rather than being bombarded by it. So that would be, how else can I support Ashwaubenon School District? It might be using this realtor, or I don't know, just a thought.
I'd like to see what they say, if you talk to them and see what level they're willing to do if we don't do the handouts.
Is this much different? I think of the Quick Trip cards. Are we still doing the Quick Trip cards?
No.
Through the Jagbackers? No. Because that was very similar to.
It's through
Titletown.
Through Titletown now, okay.
Yeah, we still do that, yes.
Okay, so that, but this isn't much different. I mean, you've got.
We don't mass email at home though.
No.
I mean, it's selected groups that get that.
Okay.
But groups
But
certainly
could-
do get that every week.
Right.
Hey, support high
Support our
school
sponsors.
co-curriculars,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Right.
By going to this business.
Patronize our sponsors.
Pretty much, yeah.
So wouldn't it be nice to make that universal, you know,
Yeah,
so
that's a
that,
good point, Jane.
or you don't think so?
I think it's
It's a
back to
slippery
your
slope.
slippery slope, because there's a lot of different ways that groups and clubs and teams fundraise. You know, our wrestling program just went out and solicited $300 donations. We've got probably 30 businesses to do that. They're gonna put them on the back of a shirt. Their logo on the back of a shirt, so that's how their program is offsetting a lot of costs that they incur. And a lot of businesses support wrestling. A lot of businesses support DI, you name the club, sport, or activity. And if you say, well, no, we're not gonna put you on the back of a shirt, we're only gonna put you on something, then it gets real tricky for those businesses to want to support a particular group or club, because if kids or parents or people are wearing the shirt, there's their logo, people will see it.
I think it's really tough, just from my experience with this. I mean, when you start getting into advertising, marketing, trying to get everything, it's really a tough endeavor to try to create some kind of policy or something that would encompass everything that you're doing, like all these different examples from first, third party, all these things, and then you start getting into what Mark said about, well, let's do, a bunch of logos on a folder. Well, who's going to be the graphic designer that makes this folder? Who's going to be the one that creates it actually creates like another staff position almost if you start getting into this whole marketing advertising piece, or a big portion of time. And then the sponsorship levels and the places you can do it. And I think it'd be easier if they came in and said, we want to give $10,000 to the community center or the pool or this endeavor. I think that's why some of these events work, like Taste of Ashwaubenon, because it's a one-night event. And a CTO fundraiser, it's a one-night event. You're going to a business to say, for this one night, can you donate for this? Or for this wrestling thing, can you donate for this? But to just say like $50 per student, that's
a guarantee. As a business owner, it's a guaranteed sale. I mean, you if I charged $100 for the thing and I'm going to give $20 back for everyone that I get, I know I got my costs covered. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. So I mean, it's. But if you take and you put it, say, I'm going to put the sign up over here, and I'm going to give you $10,000 for that opportunity. You're not going to give that much, I don't think. I mean, it's not the same guarantee, if you will.
Multifaceted issue. Flipping it the other way, as I said to Keith, how do we know how many homes are sold, how many clients go? That's all information. We're not privy to that, really, right? So there's that trust, and that's not to be negative, but boy, you start thinking about this. They say it's a range from this to this, and it's under $10,000. Well, what are we going to say? I know Keith would say, well, Brian, it's still money that we wouldn't have otherwise. I agree. So it is. I think it's a good idea at this point to go back and ask them to propose. Jenny, your concept about Target, I would like to propose that. That worked for them very well for many years. Maybe it's just that they haven't even thought about that type of, do your own promoting and announce what you're doing to support the school. That stays mutually exclusive out of we get the money and they get the recognition, and to me that could be a win-win.
I can imagine them having a really nice auction item at Taste of Ashwaubenon with little cards next to it that say, bring your student here for braces and we'll donate $50 to the school. I mean, I can imagine that being an appropriate place to say that. It's already a fundraising venue, and it has an audience who wants to support the schools. But I'd rather not be the one handing the card out. Does that make sense?
Does.
And I think if you're going to look at it, look into parochial schools too, because I think they're real good at this. They're real good at this. So
Okay, so we're gonna bring this back at some point in time, Brian, or see what we can find out? Just sort of let it ride right now and.
Thank you, thanks for all the time on the issue and
Sure.
and additional ideas too. Good.
Okay. Number 6, WIA sportsmanship letter. Well, I've asked this to be put on here. Talked to Nick about it, talked to Brian about it a little bit. Nick has done a little background for us, and he can probably give us a little more background as why the letter, what's happened over the last several months, I guess, on what the WIA is suggesting for everybody. And everybody knows that Ashwaubenon students have got some recognition nationally on this as well. And so I'm going to let Nick do a little explaining here, I guess, on how this started, where it happened, what's going on here, I guess.
Well, I guess from my conversations with Mark, there's a lot of, I would say, misinformation out there. The WIA put in sportsmanship guidelines back in '97, and they updated them in 2005. They have not changed since 2005. Prior to Christmas, there was an email sent out by the WIA to all member schools, just stating, hey, at our fall events, we noticed this and we noticed this. As you enter your holiday seasons, remember to remind your student sections and your fans to be respectful and act appropriately. And then they listed cheers that we've seen that can be classified as disrespectful or unsportsmanlike are the cheers that are now in the news. I hit delete on that email. It was a good email, good reminder to me to say, hey, yeah, we'll check our student sections, make sure they're behaving, which they have been all year, or my 2 years here, so it wasn't really a big concern. Then it hit the press when another school sent that email out to all its students and all its community, and there was some fight back from some of the students there. Our kids with social media saw that and decided to do something where they showed their, I guess, displeasure with the new rules, even though there weren't any new rules put in place, and they came all dressed in black and cleverly with duct tape on their face saying WIA or I love WIAA, which was a clever way to protest that we're going to continue to have chants and cheers where we can voice our opinion and be engaged in part of the game. And that's since hit the news, hit the national news a little bit with our kids doing that. There were other schools that did similar things across the state. Our kids just got it out on Twitter first. So as far as sportsmanship is concerned, we emphasize and talk about that at our co-curricular meetings. We talk about it with our parents. We talk about it at our class meetings at the beginning of the year and remind them about appropriate behavior at games and events. And back to, there were no new rules in our gym on that Tuesday night. Our kids just decided to voice their opinion in another way. So, and after talking with Mark about wanting to have a statement back to the WIAA, that's where it's at right now on your table to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, from the people that I've talked to and talked to me about this, and I talked to Nick about it, like I said, and everything. I know, Nick, you a part of the WIA board of control on this as well?
I'm on the sportsmanship committee, yeah.
I wanted to put something on here as a board. We would support our administration and kids for what they've done and the way they stood up for what they believe in, and that's what my intent was. And I had asked Nick to draft something for us. I don't know. I thought I thought that in some ways it was a good start for the letter. But I personally wanted to do something a little bit stronger, but I don't want to step on Nick's toes either, prohibiting him from doing things with the WIA on behalf of the school district as well. So that's why he came up with what he did. And again, it's not that I don't think that I think that WIA should let it for a local control, because I think our kids and fans and community have supported sportsmanship wholeheartedly and do a great job of supporting the community and the athletes and whatever they're supporting at the time. So I mean, I don't want to. I'd like to see us support something. If it's to the WIA, or what was the other thought, Brian? As far
Well,
as
you know, I share the same opinion. Nick serves on that committee. You could say in part he's helped created what we have, although as you heard him say, this was created many, many years ago. I think it's the fact that you want to bring this forward and show the kids, the public, and our parents here in Ashwaubenon that we pride ourselves on past sportsmanship recognition. We expect nothing less going forward. I think if you approve a statement, my advice would be keep it right here. That's really what you're trying to do in the first place. I think by taking it to the WIA, I don't really see that being a benefit to us. In fact, indirectly, if that would become harmful to us in one way or another because of that, that would be very disappointing, because there would be nothing in a statement that you would approve that they would certainly disagree with. I know that. I know this board and this community. I think the point is students did a respectful job of silently sending a message, and their behavior, come to any one of our events, you'll see what their behavior is. And our administration holds those high standards. So my advice would be, if you pass a statement or approve something, we could put that in the local newspaper. If you wanted to, we could put it on our website. But I would just caution you, for the reasons we said, with Nick being on that committee, out of respect to him and his willingness to serve on that committee, I don't know that I would see anything necessarily good coming out of that. Not saying it would necessarily be harmful either, but I really don't want to test those waters. But I put in what I know.
So were you saying that we should ask WIA for local control or not?
Well, I certainly, their follow-up letter, which was basically an apologetic letter, basically stated that in so many words, and I don't want to, Nick, you
They
know,
defer to
that.
the high schools and the member schools to control their student bodies the best way they see fit.
Okay.
There's no mandates that you must do this, this, or this. They respect that the schools are and the administrations are in charge of their students, and they're visiting the students, and have controlled what they do in the gymnasium and what they don't do.
So here's a question, because this was on NPR this morning, and I just happened to do a search and got to listen to it this afternoon because I wasn't listening to it this morning. But it talked about the tweet the young woman had sent out using expletives regarding the WIA sportsmanship standard, and that student was taken out of about a quarter of the games for a season.
That was local control. That was social. My understanding is that was a social media issue.
And that was local. That was not a WIA.
No.
That I wasn't clear after listening to that.
That was local control.
Okay,
Right.
that's good to know, because I didn't know where that ruling came from after listening to that, and I didn't have the
Every
patience.
school is supposed to have a co-curricular handbook or
Mhm.
activity code by.
That makes
being
me feel a
member of
little
the
better.
WIA. But they have some minimum requirements in there, and ours are beyond. Our consequences are beyond the minimum requirements of what the WIA says you should have in place.
Okay.
You know, that I haven't followed this all that closely. I was kind of like you. I kind of deleted it when I first heard about it. But that was the first time I'd heard that this is policies or things that were 10 years old or in place since 05 or whatever it was.
Guidelines that have been in place.
And so it just kind of blew up out of that. Somebody finally went out and read the guidelines. Is that basically the media went out and read it and let it run with
Guidelines are
it?
in the book that gets sent out every year. It's on their website.
See, and I understood it to mean that it was something new being brought forward and brought out. So again, I think it's much ado about nothing. But I do kind of like the idea of recognizing our students for the type of sportsmanship that they exemplify.
Well,
But I don't disagree with Brian that nothing good can come from challenging that entity because they're kind of above all others. You know, whether it's the NCAA or the WIAA, it's kind of one and the same. And if something comes up later on, who knows what kind of a statement they could make back to you when you don't even realize it.
I think
So Brian, the
courtesy of the fact that you're recognizing sportsmanship and you're willing to have a resolution as a board. If they want to come say, how have you addressed sportsmanship? You can say our board has a policy. Our board has a resolution that it created and stood by since reaffirmed in January of 2015. But it's been in our co-curricular code probably since it was created.
So the history is the letter that was in the board packet was rewritten.
I
this
see that
afternoon
this was different.
by me.
Because I had read the one and I wasn't real excited about the one that was out there.
Well, I wanted to commend our students. I actually think when we look at replacing people on the school board, it's awesome if they get excited and passionate about something that might have gotten under their skin. And if they can find a way to peacefully express themselves, that's even better. And if they as a student body want to decide what's appropriate with some guidance, who knows, that might be even better if they're passionate about it. But I do think the involvement is really awesome. So if we need a statement, I'd rather it be stronger, and I don't know that I'm passionate about needing a statement.
I'm not passionate about needing a statement. I think locally, would it be something that, if it makes it in the newspaper, the fact that we've had some recognition could make it blow up even beyond that? And is that something that's good publicity? We don't need to rub the WIAA's nose in something that we just don't necessarily, well, actually, it's not a matter of disagreeing with it. It's been policy for 10 years. So I don't know that there's any value in doing anything, quite honestly.
I don't know, did anybody see it on the Tonight Show? They were making
Oh
fun
my
of
God.
Wisconsin.
I've
and
seen all kinds.
They were
It's been
comparing
horrible.
it, going to a Packer Bear game, and nobody allowed to say a word. So I think it's kind of this whole misconception. And
It is.
I think if you make a statement, I'm kind of worried about that too, like what you're saying, Brian.
Welcome to the media.
That the media is going to turn it into something again, into something that's not really what it is. I think people would be amazed if they just heard what you said, Nick, because I don't think that's the way it was
I hadn't heard
portrayed.
that. It's been going on for a month, and I
Yeah,
had not heard
yeah.
that. So,
If everybody's okay with us not having a statement sent out or something like that, I mean, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to let the students know, let the administration know that, you know, I think that what we've done as a district is the appropriate thing in sportsmanship, no matter what level we're talking about.
sometimes you say more by saying nothing. You know, we're above this. This isn't about us.
Right.
It's not our fight. So why stir it up?
Okay.
That's my opinion. Do what you want.
I'm fine
Okay?
with nothing.
I'm fine with nothing too.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nick, for shedding light on this, and I hope that the students continue their sportsmanship-like manner, so.
And I love the chants.
Yeah.
I do. That's part of the fun of going to an event.
And I just want to thank all three of the administrators on the week that they had with this and how professionally they handled it, because obviously when, you know how this works, that switch gets tripped, and all of a sudden they want this interview in the media, they're trying to pull kids out of class, and they held real high standards and coached the kids on how to handle that. That added all of a sudden immediately a number of things that had to happen within minutes to respond. So again, we've got a lot to be proud of. And I think the decision was a good one.
Okay.
Great intent.
Good. Thank you. We'll move on to discussion item, WSB convention report. Brian, myself, and Jay all went to the convention last week. I was in a delegate assembly, and most of our issues that we would want to be approved were approved. There's several of them that I voted against that still got approved anyways, but it was a good learning experience on how this all works and everything as far as the the whole process of putting resolutions forward for WSB to have them support and try to get, you know, different aspects of it put into laws, basically. So it was a interesting thing to do. I don't know if I'll be asked again next year, but usually they want a 2-year commitment, but I don't know if that'll happen or not right now. But it definitely was a learning experience, and see how that all transpires. I got a copy of all the different resolutions that were passed, if anybody wants to know or wants to see them. There's basically 320 delegates at this assembly, so I mean there was a lot of people there, and it was kind of fun.
Was there anything unusual that you would point out? Or something that got passed?
The hottest topic of the night was a resolution that they wanted to propose to support allowing prevailing wage and for referendum projects, and it failed. Last year it got taken out of the budget by the governor, and as soon as it came off of the books, now they want it back on there, and the majority of the districts voted in favor of not putting it back in place. So as of right now, we would have waited a year, we could have probably, our bids would have been a little bit lower because we had to follow prevailing wage. That was the biggest
interesting
thing that we had out there right now. On the committees or the seminars and stuff, I know Brian and I went to see the one main speaker that day, and I also went to a seminar on the Studer Group, on how that whole process works as far as their goal setting and how it relates to each individual in that district, all the way from teachers up through the whole administration. As we go through this first time, I did talk to school board members from Menominee Falls, Janesville, Stoughton, that all are part of the Studer Group that we're just going through right now. They're in various stages of from where we're at. After hearing their explanations, I got a lot better handle of it. Hearing it from another school board member that's been through it several times, and several years, and I think that our staff and administration will buy into it once they get along with the process a little bit further. Okay? So that's where I took out of that so far.
I had, this was the first time I was at a school board convention in probably 8 or 9 years. It was good. It was good to come back, and I went to one that was on positive attitude, carrying a positive attitude. What was it, the guy's name?
Oh, it's Mike Weber.
Very good speaker. And then I also sat in with Brian, school perceptions that we were focused on, us and, what was the other school district? Stoughton, and using the survey to get our referendums through. And they thought it was, it was very, very good. With them having a referendum passed also, that I know would never pass here, where we have the, how do you call it? It's a rolling...
Recurring versus non-recurring.
Yeah, a recurring referendum. So basically it'll open a checkbook to help fund your district, and they were able to do that, which is kudos to them, but I know that I would never support that. But, and then the other one was on alumni associations, and that's becoming big, really big, and you're seeing a lot more support for those, and it was very interesting. And I told Mark I got some information for him.
Brian, you have anything to add?
Well, I want to say thank you for both of you carving time away from work to do that. I know what that meant for you that week and what you came back to. I was involved in another one that had to do with mentoring new superintendents. We have 50 new superintendents in the state. And the takeaway for me on the other one, I think it was really neat to recognize our village-school partnership in that presentation. To show other people that this can work. I think it's important that we keep trying to tell our story. And I also, I talk about the board to a lot of different people. If you've ever been in a situation where one board member is not supportive of a referendum, but the rest of the board votes to do that, and the additional work that creates and the problems and tensions in the community, I was able to speak to that from personal experience and background. We asked the question in that session, and there were probably 150 people there, how many people are planning to go to referendum for capital projects? All these hands went up. How many are planning this next year to go for a revenue cap? All of these hands. I don't know, Jay. 80,
it was amazing.
90 hands. It is amazing how many districts right now have that need to pass referendums.
There was more revenue caps than there was capital projects.
Pretty amazing. I think the bill that you maybe read about 2 months ago that started to threaten the rules of schools when they could have and could not have referendums, now legislatively they're really trying to meddle with that, whereas in the past, I was always told by legislators when we were having fiscal issues, well, Brian, don't forget you have the opportunity to go to the voters and have the voters decide. Now we turned the page, we're in another chapter, now they're saying, well, now you can't do that. Well, maybe you can do it on this date and this date. I mean, it's kind of scary. There was a session that we didn't attend that had this huge chart outside the session. I saw this at the last CISA meeting, and it compares Wisconsin's spending to the nation. And Wisconsin now is in the top 10 states as far as the least amount of money being put towards education. When would we have ever said that in the last 10, 20, 25 years in education in Wisconsin? I think we have the attention of the public now that this is real. And Keith has done a good job characterizing our decline in the state aid, but I do think the public now is better understanding that we've got to wake up. This is a true investment in our economy to get teachers to maintain what we're doing, economically. It's imperative. So change will be slow, but I think we're starting to turn the corner. I would not have said that in the last year and a half. But no, I just want to say thank you most of all for making the time to come to that. You can only experience so much, and I had a chance to sit down one-on-one with Melissa and talk more about Studer, go through some of the goals and our progress. We'll be working diligently, and you're right, Mark. The first year we go through this process, all the peers I talk to, that's the most difficult, and I just hope our staff hangs in there on all levels to realize the goal is, I like to say, to move the needle. That's what we're trying to do. It's not, I got you, or James Bond 007. It's to really listen, not try to fix everything because we can't. Pick one or two things and just try to make progress, and we'll talk more about that in February. That's really what the Studer process has the ability to do. So, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? It's fun. Board and Superintendent Communications. One thing that I want to bring up real quick, Brad, August 15th? 16th. Last year we had their 50th anniversary party and everything for the school district. We are continuing it again this year. It is August 16th, 2 until 10. It's going to be called the Ashwaubenon Blast, 2016 Ashwaubenon Blast. We're going to be doing a little bit different this year, where we're going to have different groups doing the fundraising themselves and just applying a portion of what they collect to the Alumni Association to cover the cost to put the event on. More events. 15th?
13th. Just say that's
13. Free bands, same concept as last year with bands and swimming and bounce houses for the kids.
Did you say 2 till 6? Or is
2
it
till 10.
2 till 10, okay. I was thinking 6 seemed a little early for 3 bands.
Second thing that I want to just announce here right now is that at high school graduation this year, we've had Alumni Association is going to be doing something special with this year's class. We are going to have 50 years of graduates there, walking with the students, I am encouraging all alumni on the Board of Education to do the same thing this year, to walk with them and be up on stage with everybody. So,
I'm married to one.
yeah.
Can I count him?
Yes. So you're having 1 per year?
One per year, and it will be someone that has graduated in that class.
Okay.
High school and Alumni Association are splitting the cost on this, I believe. It should be something special, I think.
Look for the gold robes.
Gold robes.
Gold robes.
Oh, you need different colored robes? Because I bet we all have those robes
Mhm.
hanging in our closet that are green. These different.
So, a couple different things that are happening, so. Anything else? Anything else? No? Did you enjoy it, the first one?
It's
Are you coming back for the second one?
I'll be back for at least.
Future board meetings and topics. The board workshop is scheduled for Monday, February 22nd at 5:30 right here, right before our regularly scheduled meeting on the 22nd at 6:30. So I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Your motion a second. Roll call, please.
Vandy Creek, aye.
Laura and I.
Van Layden, aye.
Love that.
Lynn's aye. Thank you very much.